How do you do, fellow crawlers? It occurred to me that we do a lot of crawl cosplay on this channel, almost exclusively, but I never really took the time to explain exactly what crawl cosplay is and how you can participate in it. So that's what this video is going to be. This here is the Crawl Cosplay website. I'll provide a link in the video description. And this is where you can see the challenges and submit your morgue files for scoring points. The concept of Crawl Cosplay is to play as the various uniques in the game and score points for doing certain things that the unique might do or how they might play the game if they were the player. So there's a lot of links on this website that we'll take a look at. Okay, so first up is the Crawl Cosplay Academy. Crawl Cosplay Academy is kind of like challenges, except they're easier, designed for newer players. Let's go ahead and click on that. There are 12 Crawl Cosplay Academy challenges, each with their own play style, grouped into 4 different categories. You have Strength Brutes, Dexterity-based, Mages, mostly magic, and Miscellaneous. The challenge authors suggest that you start with a Strength Brute, but feel free to check them all out and see which one feels the most fun to play to you. There's also links here at the top for Particle Face and I's video series that we've done on Crawl Cosplay Academy, so feel free to check those out if you want to see a run in action. I suppose now would be a good time to go over exactly how to play a challenge and how to score points. Let's just pick a challenge and go over it as an example. We'll click on Asterion. So at the top you have the unique description, and you have these links here to the wiki page and submitting a CCA run. Submitting a CCA run is what you're going to click once you have finished your run and wish to submit it for points. In order to score points, you must play as the required species, background, and worship the required god. In this case, it's Minotaur Fighter of Makleb. These are the 3 things that qualify you to start scoring points. So as long as you have these 3 things done, then you can score some points. For the required god, obviously you can't start the game worshiping a god unless you are playing as one of the backgrounds that start worshiping a god, such as Berserker or Abyssal Knight. But basically you have to start worshiping that god as soon as you see the altar for that god. So there's no, picking a time to worship them. You have to do it as soon as possible. You also can't use a faded altar. Like, even if you found a faded altar with Makleb as a choice, you couldn't actually use the faded altar for Makleb. You have to find an actual altar of Makleb. Each Crawl Cosplay Academy has a strategy section, which I highly recommend that you check out because there's a lot of good tips and information in here. All right, let's talk about scoring. So we'll go down to the bottom here and talk about milestones. So milestones are how you score the majority of your points. Each of these milestones is something that you would do normally as you play the game in any run of Crawl. You can do them in any order. You get 5 points each. As long as you're playing the combo at the top, you can score these points. So it's a total of 35 points for milestones, but the max score is 50. So you're probably wondering, how do I get those extra 15 points? Let's scroll up to conducts and take a look at those. So conducts are usually restrictions or some kind of challenge, a restriction or a target goal of some kind to hit that kind of guides you into the playstyle of that particular unique. For a Crawl Cosplay challenge, they're typically meant to be challenging, exclude certain skills, or give you a huge skill tax that you have to do, stuff like that, which makes the game a little bit harder. For Crawl Cosplay Academy, these are actually meant to make your character stronger. They kind of guide you into a playstyle that's effective for your starting combo. So in this case, we have weapon. At character creation, select a war axe as your starting weapon. That's a really good idea when you're playing a Minotaur because they have a very good axes aptitude, and axes are just great weapons in general. Number 2 is leveling up. Select strength at experience levels 3 and 9. This is something you'd probably want to do anyways playing a Minotaur fighter, so it's not much of a conduct here really. And then number 3, train shields to at least 14, axes to 16, and then 18 if you're using a broad axe. So this is something that you would probably normally do playing a Minotaur fighter of axes. It's not too big of a challenge or restriction or anything like that. Something to note about Crawl Cosplay Academy is that these conducts are meant to guide you as a new player into making good decisions building your character. And there are some situations where it's actually incorrect to follow one of these conducts. In that case, you can actually make that determination. And let me give you an example. If, for instance, you start off with an axe and, you pick your strength for 3 and 9, but then early on you find a really powerful artifact of a different type that isn't an axe. So say, for instance, you find Wormbane on the ground. That's an incredible weapon that can easily win you the run, but it is a polearm. But you don't have to follow this conduct right here. You probably still want to train the shields to at least 14, but if you find something better than an axe, feel free to use that. And then when you submit your morgue, just put in an explanation, like, I trained polearms instead of axes because I found wormbane. And that's totally acceptable. You will still earn the points for this conduct as long as you can justify why you decided not to do it, if it's better for your character, essentially. Please note that that's only for Crawl Cosplay Academies. For anything else like challenges or tournaments, you have to follow the conduct as written. But in both cases, it's okay to make small mistakes. If you make a small mistake and you know, it's only a one-time thing, then feel free to explain yourself in the when you submit your morgue. For instance, if your challenge or your conduct is to not attack anything in melee and you accidentally bump into an invisible enemy, you're not going to get disqualified for that. When you submit your morgue, just say, hey, I accidentally attacked something, and it'll probably be forgiven. Okay, moving on to bonus challenges. So the conducts and the milestones are enough to get you the max 50 points, but you'll notice that some of these, or actually most of these submissions over here, have these stars next to them. And so those stars indicate that a bonus challenge was completed. 2 stars is for both bonus challenges and 1 star is for one challenge. And then if there's no stars, then they didn't complete any bonus challenges. Bonus challenges are usually a lot more challenging, as the name would suggest, and they usually require you to do something kind of wacky that you wouldn't normally do. For Crawl Cosplay Academies, they're usually not too difficult, but they're still something that you're going to have to go out of your way to complete. So, for example, bonus challenge for Asterian number 1, it doesn't cost piety. Use Mokleb's Unleash Destruction 27 times at least in total. So this is something that you may or may not complete just naturally, but it's something that, you know, if you want to earn the star, that you should do. And it tells you right here, you can look at your morgue dump by pressing the hash key in game, and that will bring up your morgue, and you can take a look at the bottom to see how many times you've used it. And you just want to make sure that you're at 27 before the end of the game. So this is a relatively easy one to get. I feel like the only way you wouldn't get this is if you died early before worshipping Mokleb, or you just forget to use it, because, you know, sometimes you don't need to use it. Sometimes you find a really strong early game axe and you can just kind of tab through everything. You don't even need to worry about using Unleash Destruction. But if you want this star, you should probably go ahead and spam this a couple of times, at least 27, just to get it. And bonus challenge number 2, allies on call, reach max piety and imbue yourself with Mokleb's Infertile Mark and get a rune. So this one requires you to do something you would probably normally do as a Mokleb worshiper. Branding yourself with the mark is optional, but it's, you know, you should probably do it because it's the reason you get the 6 pip to piety with Mokleb. And then you do have to get a rune here, so you can't just get the mark and then if you die before getting a rune, you have to actually get a rune to complete this challenge. So usually the second bonus challenge has this and get a rune restriction here, just so that you can't score it super early on. Okay, so once you have completed your game and you're ready to submit, what you're going to do is scroll up to the top here and click the Submit a CCA Run. So if you are a new submitter, what you'll do is you'll leave this player drop-down menu as a new player. If you are submitting your second or 100th game, then your name will be added to this list, and you can just type in your name and it will show up like I just typed Duma and then my name popped up here. Now what you need to do is, of course, if you're a new player, you would leave this as new player. So we'll just do that for now for the sake of the video. And then you want to put your morgue URL in this box right here. And so if you don't know how you can get your morgue URL, let me show you how to do that. So one way to do it would be to, once your game is complete, you'll have a little box that pops up that gives you a little summary of the game. What happened to you? Did you ascend? Did you die? What were you playing? And then there's a button that says View Morgue. So if you click on that, your morgue will pop up. So this is a good time to do that. If your run's just over, just click the morgue button. You'll get your morgue open. If, however, you dismiss this screen, you might be wondering, how can you get that morgue? Well, there's a couple of different ways to do it. So I'll go over 2 ways that you can do it. The first way is you go to your play server. In my case, it's a CBRO, and everything's going to be a little bit different depending on which server you play on. But I'll just show CBRO as an example. So at the top here, there's this morgues button. So we'll click the morgues button, and it will take us to a directory of players. Okay, so all of the players are here, so it's a kind of a big website. What I'm going to do is Control F to find my name, and there it is, Dumalacath. So we'll click on my name, and then these are all of my games that I played on this server. So it can be kind of difficult to find. You're looking for the text file, And it can be kind of hard to find your morgue just like scrolling around. But what I would suggest you do is, you know how each of these have a date stamp on here? You can just Control F the date that you played the game. So if I played the game yesterday, which would be February 27th, I would just do 2025-02-27. And then we have this stuff here at the top. I'm not exactly sure what these are, but you'll want to just come down to here. Okay, so there we can see I played 2 games yesterday. And if I wanted to submit this morgue right here, I would just click on this. And then here is the morgue for this game. This is for the tournament. A failed game for the tournament. But if I wanted to submit this, what I'd do is, you can't see my URL box at the top here, but what you can do is click on that, Control C to copy it, and then just Control V to paste it in here. Or you can obviously right click to do copy and pasting. And so this is what the morgue URL will kind of look like. And that's what you type in here, or what you paste in here. And the second way that you can get your morgue that I know of is that you can get it from the DCSS stats page. So this is a website that tracks all of your game stats across all servers. I think so. What it does is it summarizes all your games, gives you a bunch of stats. I'll provide a link to this website in the video description. So here is my stats page. Ignore the abysmal win rate. We don't need to worry about that. And what you can do is, like, say for instance, if you come down here, you can see your recent games. And so you can click this button right here, and this will take you to your morgue file. So that's pretty cool. You can do that. You can even search, like, say for instance, this is a game that maybe you played a while ago. You can filter it by wins only. And then you can say, oh, what was that? That was it was a gargoyle, wasn't it? And so you can see, okay, here's all my gargoyle wins. It tells you exactly when you did it, and you can find your morgues this way. So that's the second way that you can find your morgues. You want to leave the played online box selected if it is an online game. I do not know how you would submit an offline morgue. I've never played offline before, so I'm sorry. I don't know how to instruct you on how to do that if you're an offline player. I would suggest you just play online when you're doing Crawl Cosplay, but obviously not everybody likes to do that, so I understand if you don't. Next thing to do is to write in the comments box. You should estimate your points and stars. So if you did 50 points and 2 stars, then that's what you would write. That's what I write. I'm not sure what everybody else writes, but that's what I've done for all of my submissions, and they've all been accepted. Also, what you should do here is, if, like I was saying earlier, if this is a Crawl Cosplay Academy, which is the only case in which you are allowed to do this, you can say, I found Wormbane early on and decided to use that so I didn't train axes for conduct 3. And so as long as you explain why you didn't complete that conduct, you will still earn points for it, because obviously if you find Wormbane, you're going to use that. And also, if you make a mistake on one of your conducts, sorry, I attacked something in Pan. Sad face. Yeah, if you make a small mistake on one of your conducts, just write it in there in the comments, and I'm sure that it will be forgiven. Okay, so... And I know that this was not a conduct or a bonus challenge, but I know I've played a challenge before. I think it was Gastronaut, where I wasn't allowed to melee things. And I think I accidentally meleeed a couple of things, just like playing a bit too fast. So I just wrote out there, hey, I accidentally attacked some things, because it's something that is reviewable in the morgue. I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned it, because it was only like a couple of attacks, but which shouldn't disqualify you for something like that, as long as, you know, you're not getting that action into the hundreds and clearly using it to win the game. Okay, so now that that's been explained, now what you can do is select the milestones you reached, the conducts that you followed, and the bonuses that you completed. So if you did everything, you can click this 50 star button here to automatically select everything, and then selecting it will unselect everything, or clicking it again will unselect everything. What you can do is just, you know, if you're submitting a non-full point game, what you can do is just say, for instance, look at these milestones. All right, which ones did you reach? Maybe you hit experience level 3, you entered layer orc in depths, you reached the bottom of dungeon layer or orc, and you collected your first rune, but you did not find the entrance to Zop. And so you won't leave this selected. You didn't collect your third rune, and obviously you didn't win the game. So you'll leave those selected, and then which conducts did you follow? So you did select an axe, you did strength level 3 and 9, and let's say, for instance, we didn't quite make it to 18. Actually, no, I feel like if you got your first rune, you would have probably made it to 18. So we'll do all 3 conducts. And then for the bonus challenge, we'll say we did use Unleash Destruction 27 times, but we didn't reach max piety. So we'll just leave that one unchecked. And then once you've selected everything here, and I know this doesn't match what we wrote here, I'm sorry about that. But what we can do is like estimate the score and update our thing. So we did 5, 10, 15, 20 of milestones. And then for conducts, it says here, conducts are worth 5 points to a maximum of half your score from milestones rounded down. Half of our milestone score is 10. That means we can only score 10 points from conducts. So even though we achieved all 3 of these conducts, we only scored 10 points from it because it's half of our milestones. So this is a total score of 30 and 1 star. So let's update that. We'll say 30 points, 1 star. So that was our first game, and we're going to submit that. So I'm not going to click submit run because I don't want to confuse anybody by putting a clearly wrong morgue for what we're selecting. But what you can do is in all cases and all challenges other than the sudden death tournament, which, you know, is not an everyday thing. That's a thing that's done maybe once a year. You can take as many tries as you want, unless obviously it's some sort of tournament that Crawl Cosplay is hosting, in which the rules are different. But for Crawl Cosplay Academy, for Crawl Cosplay Challenges, and for the Crawl Cosplay Trunk Tournament, you can submit as many morgues as you want. You can try as many times as you want. Your 2 highest scoring submissions will be kept in the database, but I believe only your highest scoring run will be shown on the leaderboard. So say for instance, we submitted this 30.1 star game, and then, you know, later on, we tried Asterion again, and we got 50 points and 2 stars. We could just submit that second game, and we would score all the points for that. So you can submit as many as you want. You don't need to worry about getting it done on your first try or anything like that. It's totally fine to submit as many as you want. So let's go back and we'll see. So once we're done with our submission, say for instance, we submitted this, here's our name here, 50 points and 2 stars. So we did that back in 2022. And that's how it'll show up once. Obviously it doesn't show up right away because you see this to be moderated line up here. It says 0 right now, but if we just submitted a run, it would go to 1. And then that just shows how many submissions are in the queue to be reviewed by the admins. And once they review it and approve it, then it will show up on the leaderboards. So that's how you do that. All right, so let's go back to the Crawl Cosplay homepage and just